Mr. Chair, you are live.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to January 25th, first City of Annapolis Environmental Commission meeting. We are live here with COA TV and YouTube and some of our social media watchers as well. Welcome, and we have I'm the chair, Randy Kenyatta Rao, and we also have our vice chair. If you want to introduce yourself, we'll just go around.
Allison Colden, Vice Chair, Ward 7.
Bill O'Leary, Commissioner, Ward 2.
Jeremy Hansen, member, Ward 5.
Marianne Marbury, a soon-to-be member. I'll be sworn in February, Ward 1.
Yes, such an honor, and thank you again.
You're welcome. Happy to be here.
Yes. And Racine.
Yeah, Racine Hodo, City of Annapolis.
And thank you again, Racine, for attending.
Thank you, Randy.
And so on our agenda, would everybody get a chance to see the agenda and the minutes? If we could get an approval of our minutes, we're gonna vote on that.
Randy, that was Racine said she was going to send out the minutes for last meeting and this
Okay.
meeting by the end of the week. So we don't have those to approve yet tonight.
Got it, that's fine. So moving right along. We wanted to welcome some of our new members, and Linda's not here tonight, but Mary Ann is, and I just want to say thank you again for welcome. We haven't been sworn in yet. Hopefully I can get that date so me and Allison or anyone else that wants to or can attend can come. And did you want to say a few words to us, maybe a little bit about yourself or?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity. I'm very, very excited about it. I've been a resident for just about almost 20 years in the city of Annapolis. I live right near St. Mary's, and I've been very interested in all things environmental. And I had the opportunity to become a watershed steward this year and became very involved with a new volunteer group called Save Our Trees. We formed in May of this year, and we have made it our mission to remove English ivy on as many trees as we can in Annapolis and Anne Arundel County. And
Yay.
so far we're at 737 trees. We've had actually 115 volunteers participate, and we've removed ivy mostly in Truxton Park, but we've also been at Jones Cove and Quiet Waters. So that's where I've been spending a lot of my time in the environmental arena, and I'm very, very interested in everything that the commission's involved in. So thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you. Bill, did you have something there, Bill?
No, I was just saying, yay.
Yeah.
Yay.
We really tried
I'm
to.
I'm the resident English Ivy evangelist on the commission. So
Yes. Yeah.
you have a fan in me, and I've been to a few of the Save Our Trees events. So
Yes,
very good
we know,
work.
and we thank you. We thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome,
And-
Marianne.
Can I ask, do you prefer Mary or Marianne?
Actually, Marianne. So my
Okay.
Google insists on calling me Mary, but I'm Marianne.
Okay.
Thank you.
I do believe I went to one of those events too at the library.
You did
Yes.
at the library. Yes. And thank you for coming. And actually, Allison was there as well. Allison
Yep.
spoke, and we thank her for that.
Yeah, we have a great emphasis and priority around tree plantings, but as you heard already, that taking care of the trees that we already have
Yes.
is a priority, especially around some of our waterways and our rivers. and
Yes.
stuff. So we can talk more about that and see how we can maybe even help you build you all's capacity even more. So
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. So that being said, we'll go right into our guest speaker. And just to give prep background, you may know Amy. She works in environmental areas and groups. She's also working with the Youth Summit at Anne Arundel Community College this year, the Environmental Youth Summit. And so we thought maybe she could come in and talk a little bit about that. Yep. Maybe, hello, Amy.
Can you see me?
Hello.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
So maybe if
Hi,
you could give us,
Randy.
how you doing? Great to see
I'm
you
good.
again.
How are you? Hi, everyone. Hi, Marianne. 700 trees. It's fabulous. Oh my gosh. That makes me so happy.
So if you
go
could
ahead,
just
sorry.
share a little bit about your background and your experiences, because I feel like it's always good to hear, hear about that, and and then the other topic.
So my name's Amy Clements. I was actually born here in Annapolis, and so I've been here most of my life. But I'm the president of the Spa Creek Conservancy and have been that for too long now, probably 13 years. And also a watershed steward like Marianne, and have been very involved in all kinds of environmental stuff all over the city. So we, this year, one of the Conservancy's goals was to have some more educational kind of outreach. And a couple of youngsters got in touch with us and said they would like to copy something that they heard about on the Eastern Shore that was sponsored by the Sierra Club. And it was a youth summit over there last year. And so we agreed to sponsor that this year, along with Anne Arundel Community College, the College of Environmental Studies, which is chaired by Tammy Demansky. And so we are hosting that Saturday, February the 11th at Anne Arundel Community College. It's 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's a free event for all Anne Arundel County high school students. And it was meant to be like a student-led summit. And we have the youngsters who approached us about it. They're going to be introducing the main speakers, and moderating the panelists. But our goal is to provide Anne Arundel County students with kind of ideas for career paths that they might look into. Randy is going to be one of our panelists on that. Thank you very much, Randy. And we have a lot of exciting panels. We got solar panel installers, and we have electric car mechanics, and we, along with journalists, a journalist, I'm trying to remember, a scientist, a fisheries scientist from DNR, an engineer from Biohabitats. Trying to think of who else we have in the career panel. We have a restoration specialist from the Watershed Stewards Academy who's going to be speaking. We have a couple more people, and I've forgotten. We also have an innovators panel, which is going to just show kind of what different kinds of innovative fields kids could look at. We have Gerardo Martinez, who runs Wild Acres Farm down in South County, and he's going to be speaking about farming. And we have a woman who's an oyster farmer. We have Kevin Haggis, who started CAPSUP, but has also started the Live Water Foundation to help veterans on the water. There's just, and a bunch of other people who, I'm sorry, my brain is not here. I didn't print out the list, so I can't remember who else. We have a group, another panel that's going to be volunteers, which is like the watershed associations, Severn River, Magathie, South Arundel Rivers, and a couple other places that are looking for volunteers. So kids can either get volunteer hours. Oh, someone from CERC is coming. So kids could get either volunteer hours or learn about volunteer with these organizations to get some experience and to see what they're interested in and what they might be interested in. We also have a Chesapeake Conservation Corps intern who's working with the county restoration programs, because that's a great program for kids who might want to go into the field, and it's a paid internship for teenagers and young adults. And then there's a panel that's going to be student-led activities, where kids from a couple different schools will be talking about programs they themselves have been working on with other students, and how students can get involved in their own schools or in their own communities. So I think that's about it. We're going to offer free lunch to the kids. You know, we did offer on the registration, we asked kids if they needed rides. And then we would figure out how to get them there if there were kids that did not have a way to get to the schools. So, I mean, to the Anne Arundel Community College. So I think we have a couple kids that have responded that they need a ride. So that we'll figure that out, how that's going to work. But, you know, depending on how many kids that is. So that's what we're doing. This is the first time we've tried this. We're going to see how many kids show up. We're hoping for kids from all over. We've had a couple from Meade who have registered. We've had a couple from North County High School, from Broadneck, from St. Mary's, from Spalding. I don't know the latest. This was as of last night. I think kids from Arundel. You know, we're hoping to get kids from all the high schools all in the county. And so if anyone knows any high school students in the county who have any interest in this event, I highly recommend them coming to the conference or to the summit, because we think it will be valuable. We're hoping that it's going to be very valuable for the kids. And it's called the Anne Arundel Youth Environmental Action Summit. It's AAYEAS.org is the website.
Thank you. And you know, CCC program added another C with the climate aspect that they've now incorporated into their structure for that program. And that's a year-long full-time work experience where they also have just upped the amount from 20,000 to now 31,000 for 1 year.
Oh, that's great. Good.
It's minimum wage. But yes, go ahead, Allison.
Amy answered my question. I was going to ask, where can we get more information to share out to groups who may be interested? So could you please just tell me again the website, AAYEIS.org, is that right?
AAYEAS.
EAS, okay.
As for Action Summit, Environmental Youth Action Summit. So, yeah, and there's registration forms on there. Any kids that register or have to get their parents to sign on that too. We have parental permission. If they show up that day, with a parent or a guardian or someone who can sign for them, that's fine too. But we're hoping to get, because we're ordering lunches. It's going to be a zero waste event. We're going to have Annapolis Compost there to compost everything. And the cafeteria at the community college is providing everything compostable, which is great too, because we want to set a good example in that regard. And the community college is going to take kids during lunch on tours of the labs and stuff, if anybody wants to go. And so we're looking forward to it. We're hoping that it's successful. We're hoping that the kids enjoy it and that we get some good feedback from them, so that we can, you know, we'd love to be able to do this every year if it's a valuable service to the high school kids.
Yeah, I would love to see maybe how we can incorporate some college resources or partners
Right.
so that they could even get an introduction into what is to come as far as
Right.
opportunities,
Yeah.
jobs, internships, or other opportunities, so that they can see that side of it as well, because that's where they're probably on their way to, you know?
Yeah, but we also wanted it to be, I would assume most kids that would come are planning on college, but we wanted to show that there are things you don't have to go to college for too, right?
Yeah, that's a
You
good
know,
point.
you can be a mechanic for electric cars or be a solar panel installer or do, lots of other things that don't require a college degree even though. So we're hoping that it's kind of a full service type of experience for the high school kids.
Okay, well, you can lean on us if you have any insight. I mean, we may have people that we may know that could help out or be a resource. So if anybody has any input further or wants to reach out to Amy or the organization, we can try to.
Yeah, you can always reach out to me. My email is, I can write it down. I don't know for you, but Randy has it too.
Yep,
So
I
Randy
got
could
it.
share it too. We're hoping like the most of the volunteers for the event, we want it to really be students. So we're reaching out to all the high schools to, there's kids who just want service hours. And we say, well, okay, you can come and help set up the rooms and do, even if they're not interested in the environmental aspect of it, we want it to be as student-led as possible. So, and we did have Biohabitats as one of our sponsors, and Women in STEM is a sponsor for it too. So that's why we can provide it for free. And Anne Arundel is providing all the spaces, which is really great.
That's great.
Awesome. Amy, I just shared it with Chesapeake Bay Foundation Student Leadership Program. So
The
hopefully
kids who are leading it are in that program.
oh, well, they probably already know then, but yeah.
Yeah, they do, but that's okay. That's all right.
If we think
It's
of
good
more,
to get it from all
we can
over.
share it out.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
And I have a question. It sounds like the panels and speakers are all set, which is great. Really solid lineup, it sounds like. But I was wondering, is there an opportunity for like organizations to come show up with tables or other opportunities like
We're not
that?
doing tables, we'll see how it goes, but I know I'm sure we've all been to conferences. I mean, I've had a table for Spa Creek and so many different things. And we just thought for this event that with high school kids, they may not go up to a table
Okay.
to talk to somebody. We just
Yeah.
thought that we'll see, maybe in the future that if we find that would be something that kids would be interested in. We're sort of being guided by the high schoolers who are working with us on that, what they thought the high school kids would enjoy. And we thought we wanted it not too long of a day and we didn't want too many. A couple people have asked about tables, but we're keeping it a little simple. Keeping it simple for the first time, and we'll see how that goes.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And also, I would just add, if you haven't already touched base with some of these local grassroots organizations that also may have a great pulse on some of these communities that more of our, Black or Brown communities like Black Excel or She Is Incorporated. They have a lot of access to young adults, mainly at Annapolis High School, that you may want to try to touch base and share this event with. They may want to.
Black Excel and She Is
Incorporated, yep.
She Is Incorporated. Okay.
But I have a list of, 10, 20, 30 these types of organizations that service that high school demographic in the area, in the county too. So maybe we can talk offline about that.
Okay, that would be great. Yeah, we've reached out to the schools, to all the principals and the science teachers and the a couple of other organizations, like Seats for Success is going to bring some kids. But we have not reached out to probably every grassroots group. Obviously we haven't, because I don't have all the names, but that would be great, Randy, if we could talk about that.
Sounds good.
I would
Okay.
definitely do that.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any questions or comments for Amy? Okay, cool. Well, thank you, Amy, for joining us, and we won't.
Sure.
Feel free to stick around, but if you got, if you want to hop off, that's totally fine.
I'm going to go because I haven't had dinner yet, but I thank all of you for listening. And I thank you very much for serving on the commission. I know what it is to be a volunteer in this world. So I appreciate everybody else who's doing it.
Yes.
Thank you.
And maybe with the Spot Creek Conservancy, we can be incorporated with you all's efforts and research and projects where we can kind of, help to assist you all, or just be informed, or because I know you all do a lot. So maybe there's a lot of potential there. We could maybe quarterly, someone from there could come on and just give a little, update on things. That'd be really cool.
Okay, I would do that. We're involved in a lot of stuff right now, so
Yeah.
I'd be happy to come back and talk about it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Bye.
And before we move on, we have Linda here. Sorry about the mix up with the Zoom info. But what we were previously doing was, we know you all haven't quite been sworn in yet, but did want to have you just maybe introduce yourself, and it's an honor to have you, and thank you. It's a pleasure. If you want to go ahead with that.
Wow. Well, thank you. I'm glad I finally got on, and I do get sworn in on Valentine's Day.
Okay.
So, in a couple weeks. And let's see, introduce myself. I've lived in Annapolis most of my life. I'm in the community of Hunt Meadow in the city limits. And I'm a CPA and have had my own business. I don't do taxes. I design and administer retirement plans for companies. So I've been doing that for 38 years now. And I'm just very concerned about Annapolis, about our environment, about what's happening to it, and would like to do what I can to make it better.
That's awesome.
So that's why I'm here.
Thank you so much. And we're very appreciative of your support and efforts. And, thank you for coming along, you and Mary Ann. So we look forward to working with you and getting your input on things we share about, and, moving forward this year with more members, which is absolutely great. So thank you.
Right. Thank you.
And so moving right along. So we're just going through it. Were you able to see the agenda, Linda?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So in that agenda, we are just looking at that and moving right along. So Jackie, Jackie's not here, but Racine, did you want to give any updates? I can surely take a typed, if you want to give something, we can share that out later. I know
Randy,
you.
Jackie's also on as well.
Oh,
Yeah, I
okay.
think Jack's here.
My one update that I have for you is that as of today, the RFP for Hawkins Cove went out. So I think let me see here. The closing date is February 28th, so the end of February, for proposals from contractors. But we're all familiar with and for Mary Ann and for Linda, Hawkins Cove is a small cove over in Eastport. It's near the public housing developments of what are the developments there, Randy? You're better than I am. The Harbor House.
Yep. There's
Harbor House. Well, there's some public development, public housing over there. And we have held in the past some public meetings to get input from residents near the cove to see what they want to see in there. We're talking about doing some sort of a living shoreline and potentially putting in some features that the residents might be looking for, like like benches for seating, some signage for education, what is it, accessibility for the handicapped or those that are not as mobile as many other people. So the RFP for a contractor to give us a design build bid has gone out today, and the closing date is February 28th. So we're finally moving a little bit on that project.
Sounds great. And do you know where people can find that, or if you want to, is it on the city
You know what
website?
I'll do is I will look online and send you a link tomorrow. I'll send a link to the AEC on where you can find the bid proposals that go out. There is a landing page within the city of Annapolis's website. I just don't know it off the top of my head, but I will send a link to the bid proposal or the RFP, the RFP tomorrow.
I think I found it. Okay,
You
I
found
found
it?
Yep. Hawkins Cove Living Shoreline Engineering Design Services bid. Okay. I can share this with the group too.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Randy. That's helpful to me.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, this has been coming for a little while now, and we've been waiting for the RFP to go out, and we're finally sort of moving a little bit with this project. Again, we're looking at design right now.
Okay. Awesome. So, okay. So does anyone have any thoughts or questions for Racine before we move on?
Now, I will volunteer information that, access to boats is something that's important to the mayor, which would mean that potential dredging might have to take place, but that would be separate from this RFP.
Okay.
That is, and I will explain that because we do have some grant funding, and the grant funding does not pay for any dredging. So any dredging that might take place would be something separate from the RFP that's gone out now.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
Allison?
Yeah, thank you, Racine, for adding that. I just wonder if there's dredging planned and there's a living shoreline planned, have you all talked at all about the opportunities if the sediment characteristics are feasible to reuse dredge material in your living shoreline project?
Yes, that is part of the RFP. We have to either incorporate them or decide what we're doing with the dredge spoils. So that is part of the RFP.
Okay, so that'll be something that they would provide the plans for in the bids when they give them back to you guys.
I believe so. Yep.
Okay, thanks.
I haven't read the RFP yet. So, but this is something I've discussed with Public Works before. Randy, did you want a quick rundown on just some of the stuff that we're doing?
Sure.
I mean, I can go through a few things, and then if people have questions, we can follow up with it. And I know I've got to start providing these written updates that I used to do some time ago. Hello, I'm trying to just take my camera back on. I'm here. I'm just working on a few other things, so I just decided to pop in real quick. So one thing Racine's helping us out with is we're looking at pollinator habitat for the solar park and whether we will address the entire solar park property or try different types of approaches on part of the solar park. It's 80 some acres and it'd be very costly to do the whole thing all at once. So we've been exploring what other solar parks have done, other pollinator habitat, where they've gone in and what the costs were and what the approaches were. We're talking to Maryland Entomological Society, some landscapers that have done an organic approach at the Capitol, the state Capitol. There may be an opportunity to partner with the University of Maryland on a project. And the solar park operators, Novus Renewables, have put in pollinator gardens at some of their other facilities outside of Maryland. So we will be speaking to them further about that. Racine, let me get through a few things real quick and I'll take questions afterwards. So that's one thing we're doing. Rob Savage is working on introducing some bird strike legislation along with Alderman Arnett. There's also bird strike legislation, which is in hearings this week in the State General Assembly, but those will apply to state buildings only, and our legislation would apply to Annapolis city buildings and other new construction in Annapolis. So when I talk about bird strike, I'm talking about bird striking windows and ways to prevent that from happening. I had a tour today at DNR on what they've done at DNR that's been very successful in the high 90th percentile range of reducing bird strikes dramatically on their windows. So that information that we got today, as well as information we got about what other states and municipalities have done, will feed into Alderman Arnett's legislation. With regard to Hawkins Cove, that is not just the money we have from the Chesapeake Bay Trust and from the private foundation, but also money that NIFWIF provided to the city, about $500,000 in grant money to make improvements both at Hawkins Cove and at Truxton Park on the trails and eco habitat restoration, etc. And the city is working with Department of Natural Resources on other grant funding opportunities. The Land and Water Conservation Fund grants are potentially could be used at other city parks besides Truxton, Hawkins Cove, such as a second phase at Robert Eads Park to make that an even larger park than the phase one the city is anticipating, as well as looking at some other areas in the city. And that particular grant that I'm talking about is for parks and other recreational spaces that will improve disadvantaged areas and low-income areas. Also, Replant Annapolis, which was in its first year this year, was a partnership with the Watershed Stewards Academy. They provided their first year recap for us. I think they engaged about 78 residents, planted over 100 trees that would not have been planted by the city. So this really supplemented the city arborists' efforts. We're in discussion how to fund the second year of Replant Annapolis. They trained tree troopers, they train people how and to plant, where to plant, what species to plant, and help them with the planting. But they've also started a program called Tree Ambassadors, where they actually train young people and pay them to become trained ambassadors. And I spoke to them about making sure they reach out to our lower income and disadvantaged communities to try to recruit tree ambassadors, because these are paid sort of, it's kind of like a internship, externship kind of thing, but these young people are trained in forestry skills and hopefully encourage them to pursue careers in forestry. So they may be making the Watershed Stewards Academy, that is, maybe making a presentation at the next Environmental Matters Subcommittee of the City Council in February. That's on February 9th. So I will confirm that with Alderman Savage on the agenda and let you know if that does occur, because you can tune in, see their PowerPoint presentation that way and play it back later if you're not able to view it on that day. And we're still working with the Resilience Authority of the City of Annapolis and Anne Arundel County is kicked off officially. Matt Fleming, who formerly was at DNR, is the new director. They are just getting started to identify gray and green infrastructure projects and ways to finance those projects. So I'm on that advisory committee to it. I'm not on the board, obviously, but staff from both the city and the county are on the advisory board to the Resilience Authority. So we should start seeing minutes and projects coming out of the Resilience Authority fairly soon. And those are new things that are going on. Quite a list of projects. And I promise, like by February, I will be updating my spreadsheet and just providing it to you ahead of time so that you can submit questions to me and Racine ahead of the meeting, so we know how to prepare for these meetings, and you can stay abreast of the 30 or 40 things that I have going on at one time or another. And as some of you know, just because I've just had not been as available to you as I have been in the past, in this new position of mine, but also the harbor master a few months ago is now a direct report to me, the harbor master's office. So as soon as I get them sorted, I should have more time again for resilience projects, but that's been a challenge. But part of that job is to make the harbor master's office more environmentally minded as well.
Yeah, I was just gonna add, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, sorry, Jackie, that I spoke to someone over at the University of Maryland about the pollinator garden that we'd like to install around the solar arrays at the Annapolis Solar Park, and potentially maybe doing a study on the best approach of installing pollinator gardens at the solar park. I expect to hear back from the person I spoke to, but we are actively really looking at different approaches and the best way to go ahead and install pollinator gardens around the solar arrays.
That's great. Sorry, I was on mute. That's great, Racine. I think that's a really cool activity. One thing regarding the Watermark, maybe try to encourage for a new partner with Watermark that would have more of a connection to more diverse audiences and ecotourism, because I know it's some kind of pact with Watermark in the city of Annapolis, but it would be really cool to have another company down there that could service from an ecotourism standpoint, doing some of that waterway work. And then
Well, they don't have a monopoly with the city on charter cruises, whether ecotourism or otherwise.
okay, I thought it was just
No,
them
they
that-
have a lease. They have a lease, as do
so
other companies do as well. And there's been a number of companies lately that have professed some interest in running charter cruises, paddle boat cruises, tiki boat cruises, parasailing. I mean, all kinds of things. And the mayor would like to see a diverse type of ways for people to get on the water from City Dock.
Yeah. And I was just saying that, you know, some company owners that kind of represent some different demographics may be cool. More diverse ownership from those groups that work out of that space may be helpful, or really speak to that whole equity lens. Okay. Is there anything else for Jackie? Anybody have any questions or comments?
I'm hanging out here in the background, even if I turn my camera off, because I'm working on a couple of other things tonight. So I can jump in anytime you guys need me.
And Jeremy had his hand up.
Yeah, I don't want to open a can of worms, but I haven't been hearing much about Parkside Preserve lately. I have seen the structures up, but I haven't like gone to the site myself. So I'm wondering, is it fairly well stabilized now, or are there still ongoing issues? Or
yes, we've had. That's why you haven't been hearing as much about it, Jeremy, because the site stabilization is probably almost complete there. And of course, the city holds a bond on the property for a full year after it's complete, after we sign off that's complete, and we issue them their certificates of occupancy. And then we hold that bond for a year, because we want to make sure that their stormwater controls and sediment erosion controls are working. And that's why we hold on to that bond for a full year. Then there's another inspection before we release the bond.
Thank you.
And
I do have one quick update. The city of Annapolis is transitioning from eTrackit to EnerGov. Currently, you don't need to worry about that. If you need to find out anything, first of all, you can always contact me. But until the transition is complete, we're still using eTrackit. So if you hear anything about EnerGov or so on and so forth, eTrackit is still the way to go.
and if maybe someone could, is any updates about the Quiet Waters situation with the Conservancy and all that? Does anybody know anything about
The
that?
Conservancy has pulled, you may have seen the article in the Baltimore Sun yesterday. They
Yeah,
have,
I did.
they have pulled their plans to build that green space there.
So does anybody know kind of what happened with that or what the future?
Well, there was a lot of
Yeah.
blowback. Yeah, I spoke with Joel Dunn, who's the ED at the Conservancy yesterday, and there was just so much animosity, in his words, that were being directed at the Chesapeake Conservancy over it. It was getting very heated. People were, I don't think all of it was based on complete facts, but people were getting very heated about it. And they were getting such negative publicity about it. I just think that Joel thought it wasn't worth it to pursue there anymore. That's not to say that the Chesapeake Conservancy won't try to pursue a green building. And when I say a green building, it was kind of like looked at as something I went back when I was an ED of a nonprofit, talked about with a lot of environmental groups, finding a building where several, if not many, environmental nonprofits could be housed together and create a real green space and a green type of building together and share space, share kitchen space, conference rooms, and save some money there on some of those expenses that are difficult for nonprofits to fund on their own. So they're still pursuing that idea, whether it would be in a park space or a new space or a redevelopment space or an existing office building. I mean, it remains to be seen. They're just completely, at this point, they've just pulled out of this idea and are rethinking their approach.
One thing I was interested in was the goals they were having for the build out of the design of that building. And that's what we were kind of trying to encourage as a framework for our public works new facility or any other new facilities that are getting built or designed in the city, where they could have kind of that, that zero emissions goals and really kind of push the envelope around how sustainable they can be designed.
Right, and I participate, the city is actually a participant, and I'm representative as well as Director of Planning and Zoning, Michael Laplace, on the Building Performance Standards Coalition. It's a White House-led initiative that the city was invited to apply for, in which we were successful in our application to be part of. Actually, I believe I have a meeting this Friday, and they provide technical assistance to us in how to improve our code. And as part of that coalition, we committed to revising city code by 2023. So we have the end of 2023 to make revisions to our code, to make our building code require sustainable materials, energy efficient materials, to be as energy efficient net zero as possible. So we'll be working with planning and zoning on that initiative. So you would be seeing later this year some proposed code revisions.
Yeah, because I think they said that they're building and possibly redoing a new public works headquarters or something like that.
Oh no, that's under construction. It should be, it's on 39 Hudson Street, kind of over where Harley Davidson is located. There's several, Carl Fitzgerald Auto has their building over there. Porsche has their new building over there. So they're across the street pretty much from Porsche. And it was a site that was owned by, I think it was the county or private entity. Before the land was already cleared, and then the city acquired it. So it was already cleared. And there wasn't a lot of trees to deal with there, obviously, since it was already prepped for a building to go on. And that building should be completed by March. It might be completed in February, but they will definitely be moving in March, I believe. So the question remains, what will happen to the old public works site on Spa Road? So that question is still up in the air, whether that will be a redevelopment site or buildings or some other use. You know, that's right at the top, drains right to the headwaters of Spa Creek.
Yeah, looking at those scopes for that potential building that was in the article, it just kind of would be a great framework for some of those new buildings that are coming up.
Yeah, so that is that is an energy efficient building. That is a building will also have a green roof on it. It will be EV ready. There will also be EV charging in the parking lot that will be publicly accessible, so beyond the gate. And then in the interior will be EV ready for trucks and other vehicles as we bring them on to the city fleet. Oh, and I should mention that I was funded in this budget cycle that we're in for a consultant to assist me with the conversion of the city fleet to EV as much as possible and hybrid electric vehicles, plug-in hybrids, as well as to look at light duty trucks for public works and other vehicles for the police department as well. So I have retained Climate Change Consulting LLC. The principal is Elvia Thompson, who many of you may be familiar with through her work with Annapolis Green and other initiatives. Elvia officially came on board with me this week and is starting as our first task to work with the city fleet conversion, what vehicles we can buy within this budget and what we should be budgeting for in the next fiscal year, as well as to work with the Department of Transportation in acquiring additional buses and small buses. We have 2 GEM electric shuttles that we've been utilizing since mid-early December. We used them for Thursday Midnight Madness, and we're still running them. And then we have 2 electric buses on order right now for the Department of Transportation. Elvia will be assisting me with everything electric, including electric buses.
Paul, you had a hand up?
Yes, well, I had a
Hey,
couple
Paul.
of questions, and Jackie, that's music to my ears. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Backing up a few minutes, you said, well, the city holds bonds. And what was that? What were we talking about? Parkside Preserve or elsewhere?
Yes, yes.
What's
And
the
that
dollar?
applies to all projects. Yeah.
Correct. What's the dollar amount of the bond?
Dollar amount in the bond
grand?
is, sorry, I
10
don't know.
grand?
Can you hear me?
10,000?
No, it's much more than that.
Okay.
It's a percentage of, and don't hold me to this because they keep changing these things on me. It's a percentage of the cost of the construction.
Okay.
Gracie may recall what exact percentage that is. It's flown out of my head
I
at the
don't
moment.
know the exact percentage,
But we're
but it is
talking-
based on the cost of the entire construction.
Right.
And the
So-
important thing is you feel it's a meaty amount. It's a meaningful amount.
It is.
Okay,
It
good.
is. We held that bond up on, you may recall the controversy over the Primrose Hill development.
Yes.
We had a lot of stormwater runoff. We had, downhill, there was a very steep hill that development was built on, and people below it were experiencing flooding. We never did determine whether or not it was caused by the development or not, but the developer worked strenuously with those residents to make them happy because we were holding the bond, and actually at one point we were holding their occupancy permit, which really hurts them. I mean, they couldn't,
Good.
for units they had sold and units they had not sold, they were not able to get people in them until they addressed everything there, and then before we would release even their occupancy permits.
Well, I'm very happy to see the city, I shouldn't even say flex its muscles, but just utilize what is legally permissible. So good for you.
So also,
I
on that
just-
note, Paul, I just want to mention the Department of Public Works is working on new policies and revisions to their sediment and erosion control laws right now. That's should be making its way through City Council very fairly soon, but some of it will just be policy. But part of that is when they are looking at a development site, like Parkside Preserve, for example, where we have receiving tributaries nearby, that we will be monitoring not only on-site sediment and erosion control measures, but if there are sediment releases beyond the fence line. Question is how far downstream we would be measuring and how we would measure. But Department of Public Works agrees that it is a very good idea to monitor beyond the fence line, make that a requirement of our developers and put that in the permit.
Well, that's good. Not to open, I was curious about the bond because I know the cemetery across the street from Allen Heights, it would seem the bond was far less than the
Yeah.
repair job. So he just kissed the bond goodbye instead of doing the work.
Yeah, that is
Okay,
true.
but
But he is doing the work now.
Okay.
That restoration project is going into Brewer Hill Cemetery.
okay. So that was my first hand up, but great news on the Conservancy. There's plenty of underutilized space along West Street or south of many places in town, and it would be wonderful to have a little bit of an incubator, as Annapolis Green tried to do, an incubator of like-minded environmental companies in one area so they have some collective bicep. That would be great. I think, Randy, maybe the next meeting, I'll give a little riff on Ocean Exchange, which Susan Zellers, if you remember her name, is down in Florida working on. I won't go into that now.
Sure.
And great that Elvia's there, and Jackie, you know me, scummy. I'm really keen to show the cost savings that I feel we're going to have from the hybrid and electric vehicles. So not just to be green because we need to be, but also for those naysayers are slow to come on board, just show the cost savings.
Yeah.
And reduce fuel costs and reduce maintenance costs. And I think in a 5-year window, you're going to find the operating costs less. And the last one, tying in with EV vehicles, most of you have probably read, maybe it's not a saga, but the post office, they were doing new mail trucks. They hadn't done them in like 35 years. And Louis DeJoy decided not to do electric, even though they drive short, fixed, predictable rates with lots of braking. I mean, it's perfect for an EV, but DeJoy said, no, they'd cost too much. And I read later, they factored all that in at $3 a gallon gas, and then gas went up. So my point is that finally the post office is doing electric vehicles. And because we are coastal and dense, it might be nice to say, hey, we, a town like Annapolis, want, when our mail trucks get replaced, let's get the EV ones here sooner than later. It's outside your jurisdiction, post office, but if we're showing good work with the city, maybe some of those, they're going to have, 30,000 of them across the country, maybe more. So it's not like a precious asset, but it'd be nice to get electric mail trucks in the town. I mean, if you're doing good work with electric vehicles, why should we have polluting old trucks going around, mail trucks going around? So that was my thought. That's all.
Okay.
All right. Did Linda or Marianne or Jeremy, anyone else have any comments or thoughts for Racine or Jackie?
Not from me.
Okay. And
I'm so glad that Linda and Marianne, I thought, are on board. I thought we had one more new person.
Okay, so Linda and Marianne are at the meeting now because they've been confirmed, but they have not been sworn in. So they
Okay.
cannot vote, but they are on the commission. And we have one more, I forget her first name, but her last name is Janice.
Jenny.
Janis. Is it Amy?
Jenny. Her first name is Jenny.
Jamie. Okay. We're in the same place where she needs to be confirmed
Okay.
and then sworn in. So once she is confirmed and sworn in, we are a full commission.
Oh,
And
yay, well
also
done.
once Linda and Marianne are sworn in, it's a full commission.
Great.
And Linda, thank you, Racine, for that breakdown. And Linda and Marianne, usually we have just feedback over updates from the city of Annapolis, from Jackie Guild and Racine and others that may come on as guest speakers or guests to talk about different legislation or events or activities that are going on, or even things that are like pressing issues in our communities around the environment. As far as stormwater issues have been pretty popular, as well as kind of new projects that are doing great kind of work. So
I just
yeah.
thought of something, Randy. Racine, I know I jumped on a few minutes late, but Chesapeake Bay Trust is open now for new grant applications from communities and other organizations for stream restoration projects and other things like that. So I think they're doing site visits in February.
Yeah,
and
they
grant
are doing,
applications due.
yeah, they are doing site visits. I'd have to take a look at the RFP to see what the closing date's going to be.
I think
and
it's March because they make awards in April. And
Okay.
last year we funded projects in the Wardour community and Nautilus Point. These are all looking at stormwater capture and sediment and all stormwater capture ones. And they put, and so some of these are for design. The city will fund studies and design and construction. The county will only fund shovel-ready projects. So they only fund construction, but we will do studies and design. And some of the ones in our first year that we did as designs and studies went into design build and in our second year. And so now this will be our third year of our relationship with the Chesapeake Bay Trust administering this stormwater retention, filtration type of projects. And they can be as small as green alleys like Cedar Grove did, that townhouse community, to examining a whole neighborhood that's never had stormwater controls before and how do they put them in. Like in Nautilus Point, I think that predates stormwater controls.
Yeah, what I can do is forward to the, I'm making a note now, forward to the commission, sort of a quick synopsis of the projects that we've funded. Or when I say we, because the city is working with Chesapeake Bay Trust. And the city is providing $300,000 a year right now for toward this grant program. And I can forward a quick synopsis of the projects that
Why don't you send the link to the trust page that describes the program? It's the watershed it's called the Anne Arundel County Watershed Restoration Program.
Right.
Because the city's in the county. And if you go to that page, it'll list city and then list county, because you could apply for county projects and then projects in the city. So don't let the name throw you off. It's just because the city is located in the county. But the link, that way you guys can share the link with any community groups or other groups that might be interested, because this could be a church, a civic association, it could be an HOA, or it doesn't even have to be an HOA. It could be a group of citizens that banded together on a street. Not everybody's part of an HOA anyway. So it's very open to this as a supplement to the work that the city's already doing.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to turn my camera up. I'll be around if you guys need me for anything else.
And I do have one question, I guess maybe Racine, you can help.
Sure.
I think Allison and I are both, our terms are up this summer. So I'm just curious what kind of lead time will either Hillary reach out to us, or do we need to reach out to Hillary as that's coming up?
I will find out for you.
Okay,
I will speak to Hillary tomorrow.
great. And I'm bringing it up now because at the end of June, I'm having another kid. So I think that's also around the time my term technically expires. So I just want to know in advance before I'm away for I'll probably miss our July meeting
Well, congratulations.
and probably a June meeting. Yeah, thanks. I'll miss at least the June meeting.
I'll check with Hillary tomorrow and I'll let you know.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Moving right along. Allison, did you want to touch on some of the pending and new legislation? I know you saw the email that Alderman Savage shared out. He was.
Sure. So at a previous meeting, we discussed the turtle safe curb legislation that Alderman Savage had introduced. He provided a quick update for us that legislation has been referred to Environmental Matters for review, where they are working on it. And he has two proposed amendments, which would sort of limit the scope of the bill a little bit to not all curbs in the city, but just curbs that are within certain distances of resource conservation areas, parks, forest conservation areas, areas, I guess, that are more likely to be turtle habitat, so that we're not having to put in turtle-friendly curbs in the middle of Annapolis Mall. So that's one amendment, and the amendments that he shared, the draft amendments, were for 750 feet, within 750 feet of one of those conservation areas for new construction, and for retrofitting existing construction, and that would be at the time of an already planned retrofit or repair, 500 feet of those resource areas. So that's something that the commission has already sort of weighed in support of informally. He asked us between our meetings for some feedback from the group, and I think Jeremy and I weighed in on that legislation and provided some feedback about not only do we want this to happen for new construction, but we do want that to include retrofits as well. So obviously he did include that in the legislation and is now working to refine that a little bit more. So I just want to open that up. Does anybody have any comments about the proposed amendments? Because if it's in committee, we can take those comments to the next committee meeting on the 9th. Any issues with sort of restricting it to areas immediately adjacent to RCA's, parks, and forest conservation areas?
No, that makes sense to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's intelligent. We should, we're always going to get a little pushback on the other side if it adds cost, but if we target ourselves where it's most meaningful, we're going to have less blowback, and so I think that's good.
Yeah.
Well, actually, Public Works says it's not any more expensive for them to do it in new build. If it's new construction, it's very easy for them to do. They're just trying to figure out the right way to do it. They're looking at what Montgomery County and other counties have done. And it's a matter of how many linear feet they replace at one time when they go in and retrofit. And they don't do that unless something needs to be retrofitted.
Right. So Jackie, I mean, there might be a little bit of increased cost just because it would be different than what's existing there, right? But it wouldn't happen unless there was already a planned project for that particular area.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So if there are no sort of objections to that, maybe whoever is available to attend our next Environmental Matters Committee meeting could let the members know that. The next one that we chatted about, and Jackie already touched on this, was the bird safe buildings. That is still in drafting, but he would like to know our thoughts on incentivizing conversions of existing buildings. So again, it's easy to apply these building standards to reduce bird strikes on new construction, but what should we do with existing buildings, and should it include incentives or requirements to do some sort of retrofit? Personally, I think, Jackie, I might be interested in chatting with you about what DNR did, because obviously that building, it's not new construction. So maybe I think it might depend on how exactly you do those sort of retrofits. I mean, I've seen like the frosted stickers and things like that, but I'm not sure how well those work.
The easiest thing to do are the stickers that it's like a film that's applied, and then when you pull off the film, the little white dots that are spaced about 2 inches apart remain. And they're a bit more costly than you might think they are, but they're the easiest and most effective way to do it. And they have about a 15-year life. And the other method they used, oh, I'm not going to remember the name. It's named after a person, but what it is, the technique is are strings that are hung, they're cables, kind of heavy strings with a weight at the bottom that are hung from a building's roof, and that they drape in front of a window, and they move a little bit with wind agitation. And they are also extremely in the 90th percentile of effectiveness in reducing bird strikes significantly. The DNR building went from several hundred strikes a year to 6 strikes a year. And either way is very effective. I think the film might be a bit more expensive, but it's a lot more attractive. And it's very easy to apply, and there's no maintenance, whereas the weighted string or cable does tangle. They showed us instances where it does tangle and you have to untangle it. So from a no maintenance type of perspective, the film with the round stickers, and they've experimented with different colors, but the white seems to work the best, and the 2-inch spacing works the best because initially the early sticker types that were used weren't addressing smaller birds like hummingbirds, which apparently strike buildings much more than you think.
Well, that's sad.
And you can place them, and what DNR did is they placed them on those windows where they were observing strikes. So some windows had trees in front of them and they weren't observing strikes there because the birds were slowing down anyway for the tree. And then in other places, I guess just from the way they migrate, etc., they just weren't observing strikes. So they were judicious in their use of them to save money.
Thank you, Jackie. That's super helpful. Go ahead,
Also,
Ruthie.
Allison, I've got a list of things to send out to you guys, but I'll send out tomorrow. There's sort of a synopsis that the DNR sent to me. And there are a couple really good links in there that might help you in understanding bird strikes and how to avoid them and so on and so forth. There are a couple of websites to go to. So I'll send that out to you tomorrow as well.
Yeah, thank you, Racine. That would be super helpful.
Yeah, and Allison, I'll send you the information in the context I got today from this group, Feather Safe, that was there with us today at DNR touring the building. I've got some contact information, and they've got some other resources they can provide you.
Great, thank you both. I was just wondering if there would be anybody in this group who has a particular interest in kind of consolidating all of that information to get back to Alderman Savage, if we have any additional recommendations, since this is still in drafting. You know, there may be an opportunity for us to weigh in and just say, here are the things that we support, or based on this research, here's a couple of things that we hope would be incorporated. I just want to throw that out to the group and see if bird safe buildings really touches your heart.
Now, Allison, I will also mention, if you want to look into what other states have done, because this was news to Rob today, and he will be looking at these other states that have passed laws. Illinois and New York states have both passed bird safe building type of legislation, and they're the only other, that's the only state law. And then there are municipalities in California, obviously, that have some. But we're going to take a look at, just for comparative language purposes, what these other states have done.
Yeah, and I think too, we could incorporate the proposed legislation that you were talking about at the General Assembly level as well.
Right, and I gotta ask, do we have any sort of estimates on the bird strikes within Annapolis? And if the state's proposing a bill to cover like state-owned buildings, I'm just trying to wrap my head around like what kind of scope would a city ordinance have, or what kind of impact that might have? Because when I think of a lot of the larger buildings, they are state owned, or they're owned by the Naval Academy, or like
Yeah, I don't, it's
we,
a really good question, Jeremy, because, DNR did their own like just visual assessment of their building, but their building has a lot of glass. And when you look at, a lot of the city buildings, they don't have a lot of glass. There's smaller windows, a lot of historical buildings, obviously, so they don't have the big glass windows. I mean, we have some downtown like that. And then you're looking over at the courthouse and the DNR building, and those buildings along Road Boulevard have more glass over there. But those are state-owned buildings and would be subject to the state legislation.
But Jackie, you said too, there's the possibility that this could apply to new construction of non-city owned buildings as well too, right?
Yeah, I have to look at what Rob wants to do with that.
Yeah, okay.
After the meeting today, I think Rob had a lot to chew on.
All right, so we can look into that and confirm it. Jeremy, was that you volunteering?
sure. Yeah, since it's still in the drafting phase, if he's not trying to move too quickly or aggressively, I can help with that.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jeremy. And the last one we had an update from the alderman on was the stormwater enforcement, and Jackie touched on this a little bit too, as well as to what the policies and recommendations that DPW are working on. He said there's a bill that was introduced by Alderman Savage that's currently in environmental matters, and they're working on amendments. So there will be a new fee structure for the permitting for new construction, requiring weekly inspections on larger active sites, and allowing staff to perform inspections of receiving waters. So that was what Jackie was, I think, touching on earlier about not only inspecting the stormwater on site, but any of the receiving waters that may be beyond the boundaries of the actual project. I think from Parkside Preserve, we've learned that that's super important, especially when those receiving waters can cross jurisdictional boundaries. And it says it will also require documentation of site deficiencies from previous inspections to ensure unresolved issues are resolved by the contractor moving forward. So I guess that means that the reports will sort of carry forward in more of like a journalistic way, as opposed to being more of like a clean slate every time the inspector goes in. It'll be more about following up specifically on previously noted deficiencies. I know this is an issue that we have weighed in on a lot, particularly with respect to Parkside Preserve and other specific projects in the city. So I assume that, this is probably something that we would support. But my recommendation is that since there are amendments being worked out with the alderman and city staff, maybe this is another one where we sort of wait and see where things land and then provide feedback at that point, unless there's anybody who wants to really dig in on this with the alderman specifically. Those are the updates that I had. Randy, I think you added a couple to the agenda if you want to go over those.
Sure, yeah, I just thought, and this is nothing we have to really weigh in right now, but I just thought maybe this year we could also look into, or just have a discussion about whether or not we want to possibly produce some kind of language around some legislation towards air quality, and more specifically in response to some of the mold issues in some of our low-income public housing communities in the city, so that it could kind of just send a message that it's important, it's something that's valued, and something that people are considering to be an environmental issue, and try to maybe create some legislation that would maybe encourage those public housing departments, agencies to prioritize, or some kind of reporting or auditing around those aspects, outside independent auditing and things like that. And then for new buildings that they have a certain built-in, some kind of management system for handling mold and things like that. And then also with the new blue and green infrastructure, replacing gray infrastructure aspects that are taking place right now with the Maryland Conservation Act of 2022 that was just passed, which was the nation's first of its kind. Just maybe seeing if we could impart some legislation with language around incentivizing or prioritizing or just a preference or priority placed on projects that are looking to replace some of those old outdated systems, and seeing if that could help to encourage some of those activities in the city. So and then the other one was a nature parks overhaul, again with some of these funds that are coming down from the federal aspect to CBT and some of these other organizations. There are going to be a lot of funding for things like green infrastructure projects and things like that. So it would be even more in tune and aligned with that kind of momentum to place some legislation that would encourage partners and others to place an emphasis or on that as well, prioritizing that from a legislative standpoint. So I don't know, just thought I'd throw those out there and get anybody's feedback on that, what you thought about it. But if you want to sleep on it, we could talk about it next time. Again, there's no real timeline around any of these discussions, just throwing some things out. If you have some ideas for things that you think should be good around different things and topics, can share that as well. Yes, Allison.
Yeah, I think you're sort of kicking off a great discussion here on our 2023 priorities. So I just wanted to reframe that as we need to set and discuss our 2023 priorities, and these are two good kickoff ideas. So if folks have other 2023 priority ideas, let us know, because we should be turning those around to staff and others as soon as we can.
Yeah. And if anyone hasn't seen, I know we have some new members. If you haven't seen the priorities list, I believe we sent that out to you all, but I may have missed that. So if we did, let us know, and we can get that out to you. Because eventually we're going to, probably when we get all three members sworn in, we're going to start kind of seeing how we can work more together with our priorities. So set some tangible outcomes and some measurable outcomes, and add some dates and deliverables there and point of contact, so that each time we meet, we can kind of get an update from each member from their particular set of things that they may be working on with that particular department. So. All right, so moving right along, we have the election of chair and vice chair. I'm not sure.
Marianne has a question, Randy.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Marianne.
Yeah, actually, I didn't see the priorities. Are they part of the minutes that you sent out, or are they?
It should have came out
before
the minutes, but I'll forward you that when we get done.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
I'll make sure I send that out. Because I may have missed that. So moving right along, the next item is the voting for the election of chair and vice chair. So I'm not sure how this process works, but I assume that if someone would like to nominate someone for chair and vice chair, we could then have a vote. Is that how it works, Allison?
That's what I assume. That's what we did last year. So
This is Bill, and I move that we maintain our current leadership with Chairman Rao and Vice Chair Colden.
thanks, Bill.
Second.
With is that all we need?
Well, we need to take the actual vote.
Okay.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Paul?
Did we lose
Okay.
Paul?
Paul's on mute.
Might be walking the dog.
All right, well,
Well, the two of you are not prohibited from voting, I don't think.
Oh, okay.
well, in that case,
You're-
in the spirit of expediency, aye.
And I'll say I also.
Oh, there you are. Hey, Paul.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And do
Thanks,
we know
everybody.
how long this would last until? Is this just like a 1-year thing, or what? How does it?
5 years.
1 year, Randy. It would be the same as this year. We get to, December, and when January comes around, we vote again.
Okay, so I'm probably gonna, this probably will be my last year doing the chair thing. So if somebody just wants to think about taking that role next round or nominating someone, so I just thought I'd put that out there. Okay, so moving right along. Were there any unfinished or old?
I'm sorry, Randy. Did you guys actually vote on this? Did you get did you pass this?
We did.
Oh,
Yeah, it
I'm
was-
sorry. I missed that. Sorry.
Yeah, it was unanimous, Racine. Of the voting members.
Was there any unfinished or old business or future business that anyone wanted to bring up from our last meeting or make sure that we touch on in our next meeting?
Paul, was your topic from earlier an agenda request for the next meeting?
Well, yeah, I think it's of general interest, though it's not as targeted as let's no longer have turtles getting run over or water running into creeks. And those are all good things and they're targeted. This would be ocean exchange. It would be worth 5 minutes in the next meeting because it's all blue economy and they're a bit of an incubator for growing innovative companies, and it's a little bit of a wish, but it would be nice if a little bit more of that traction built in Annapolis, which is plausible. So sure, I'll give you a rundown. And some of you remember Susan Zeller. She ran the Maryland Marine Trades, and prior to that she was economic development officer for the city. So she's a sharp cookie, and it's an interesting effort. It's funded philanthropically by like Wendy Schmidt and a bunch of other billionaires, but they're doing good work.
Okay. Well, we'll look forward to that next meeting. Our next meeting is going to be February, the last Wednesday. Not sure what that date is right now.
That would be February.
Well, Randy, it's in our 2023 AEC meeting minutes document.
Oh,
It's
February
it's gonna be
22nd.
got it.
February 22nd, Ash Wednesday.
Nice. Okay. So
And the
I
next
did-
Environmental Matters Committee is 3 p.m. on February 9th. Is there anyone available to attend that meeting?
I'm not. I would, but I'm not available.
I will.
What, I'm sorry, what is the date again?
February 9th?
Yeah, I'll be chaperoning at my daughter's school on that day. So I don't think I'll be done by the time to get there, but I may be able to get there afterwards or a little late. So, and I did miss the last one. Did you go to the last one, Allison? Okay,
Nope.
so we definitely want to make the next one. So
Yeah.
I'll try to make sure I get there.
I might be able to. I'll have to
Bill?
let you know, Allison.
Okay. I'll just put it down in our meeting notes so that everybody has the date and time. And then maybe closer to, we can just double check who's available.
Well, without further ado, I think, is there anything else on the table here?
Bring your ideas for priorities.
Yeah, what was that?
You just said bring your ideas for 2023 priorities.
Right, for next meeting.
Yep.
And okay, well, I'm totally fine with the joining. I think that today is a celebratory meeting because we were able to get some more members here, and I think that's that's great. Thank you all for
It is.
helping out and spreading the word, and thank you all for taking on this role. We couldn't do it without you, and your thoughts and your expertise and input is already appreciated. So we look forward to hearing you all feedback and opening up to us about how you feel about certain things. We try to be very, very open here. We try to just shoot from the hip about certain things and really just have a very family kind of oriented feel where we can kind of openly talk and even debate things, which is always good to be able to talk about the tough talks or the uncomfortable conversations. So.
Also, I need to double check this. I think I misspoke earlier. I think with our new members, including Ms. Janice, I think we're still one short, but I need to double check on that.
Sure, thank you. And another thing we're looking to try to do this year is really work better and closer with our county partners and our state partners with their boards and commissions around environmental scope, and inviting them on to come and talk quarterly or bi-monthly about some of their environmental activities, initiatives, and priorities, so that we in the city can be more in tune and in line, and maybe even direct some of our activities in alignment with the county and the state. And so that's something that we also are looking to try to do more of. So Lisa Radovian, she said that she was gonna try to come tonight, but she had another engagement, but she said she'd be willing to hop on and share things from the county, or Erica Matthews, who also have been kind of in touch with about similar reports out, and then maybe finding somebody from the state that we can use or lean on every so often to come in and give kind of updates on their activities, which will kind of be more of a broader scope. So maybe Eric Mickelson may be a good person also to have come on, talk about some of the things that he's doing with the county and things like that. So,
yeah. Senator Elfreth would be good.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Bill, that was my idea. Some of our local electeds would be great to give us the state level updates.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a good point. And I think if we get it on her calendar early enough, quarterly, I think she could probably slide one in. So we'll try to see if we can work on that. So anybody else have anything? Okay, we'd like to vote to adjourn. Adjourn. Anyone vote?
I
yes?
second.
Okay.
I was gonna say, was that a motion? Yeah. Aye.
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 All right, thank you. That's a full vote. So thank you all, and I will join the meeting now, and we'll try to send out a little update kind of what all things we touched on this meeting, and send that out within the next 48 hours. I'm trying to do that this all year. That's the goal. Okay, y'all can hold me accountable
All year.
all year. 48 hours after our meetings, we want to give a